There are a lot of good tools for birding these days. Let me tell you how to misuse them. Binoculars. I started birding when I was 6 years old, but I didn't have binoculars until I was 18. They were a pair of Bushnell 10 by 50s. They weren't waterproof, as I found out when I took them birding in a canoe in the middle of the Everglades during a horrendous storm. That downpour put inches of water in the bottom of the boat, which is where my binoculars were. I get it. You want to see birds at the bird feeder, but don't leave the binoculars on the windowsill in all that direct sunlight. It cooks them. I ruined my next pair in Yellowstone National Park in 1988. Turns out the DEET in bug repellent is a solvent. And if you have cheap rubber eyepieces, ugh. And how many times have you seen people spraying themselves with bug repellent while still wearing their binoculars? And all that mist falls onto the lenses. Ugh. Ugh. And another one, don't leave them on the roof of the car and then drive off. Merlin, the bird identification app that you can load on your smartphone from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I love it, but use it as a starting point. Merlin is very good at identifying what it's hearing. And if you want, here is how to misuse it. Believe everything Merlin tells you, because Merlin makes mistakes, especially if there's a lot of background noise, or it misinterprets what it's hearing because it's just catching the phrase of a song that may sound like another bird's song, or frankly, if the bird is just a bad singer. Example, red-eyed vireos may be the most prolific singers around here, but they wake up slowly. Their first songs are kind of like two-note phrases that sound more like a blue-headed vireo, and even I can screw that one up. I know that, but Merlin doesn't. He's just making a picture of the sound he hears and matches up the spectrogram with what's in his database. Yeah, I keep saying Merlin's a he, but I'm pretty sure he's male because he can never admit he's made a mistake. But there are a few things that Merlin is really good at. First, it can handle a cacophony of birds. You know that dawn chorus when everything is singing all at once? Merlin can get them all. Now me, in that cacophony of birds, I will sometimes tune out the really common birds because I'm focusing on the ones that are less common. I can miss the easy ones. I'll look at the readout and realize that I missed a song sparrow. Really, a song sparrow? I just tuned it right out. Merlin is really good at just giving you a general impression of what's in the neighborhood. It'll identify everything it hears just as you walk around the house. So yeah, Merlin makes mistakes, but if you're walking around the backyard and it tells you to look for something that isn't there and you can't find it, no harm done. Just don't believe everything Merlin tells you. Here's another one. If you're getting older and starting to lose some of your hearing at the high end or any end, Merlin can tell you what's there even if you can't hear it, and you can look for it. And that's helpful when you start to get, my age. Merlin is pretty good at chip notes, and even a lot of good birders I know have a little trouble mastering that. I'm surprised how often Merlin gets it right. If Merlin tells you there's an unusual bird present and you can't confirm it, don't report it to Rare Bird Alert, or especially eBird. Just don't. And the number one way to misuse Merlin is to let Merlin do all the work for you. There's no substitute for learning bird songs on your own. You're not always going to have Merlin around, and even when you do, you're not going to know when Merlin is wrong. If you let Merlin do all the work, you stay a beginner forever. And worse, you spend a lot of your time looking at your smartphone instead of the bird. And isn't looking at the bird the whole point of birding? Oh, and one more thing. Merlin records everything it hears, right? It records all the bird songs and all the conversation. So when you share that file, you might be sharing more than bird songs. So if you're running a track while you're ordering a pizza, Merlin's going to pick up your credit card number and your PIN number, and also that hermit thrush in the background. Smartphone apps. I may be a little late to the party, but I just put the Sibley app Volume 2 on my smartphone. I don't typically buy apps. In fact, this is the only one I've ever bought. But this fits in my pocket. The book doesn't. The only way I can think of to misuse an app is to do what I did to my field guide for the Western birds of North America on Dungeness Spit, Washington State in 2004. I left it on a rock. It's probably still there. Oh, and if you leave a book on top of the car and drive away, it's probably less expensive than leaving a smartphone on top of the car and driving away. Cameras. I did a video a little while back about how to more easily and confidently identify birds, and I got some comments afterwards from people who said they'd rather take a photo so they can take it home and identify that bird at their leisure. Well, that works, except when it doesn't. Birds are spinning off all kinds of clues. The camera only catches a visual picture. It's not catching what it's doing, where it is, what it sounds like. For instance, your camera can't tell the difference between a willow and an alder flycatcher, but Merlin can. They look identical, but they sound different. You probably need to take a lot of photos because with every photo, you're only getting one aspect of the bird. Pop quiz. What is the primary identification feature of a yellow-rumped warbler? You know, the feature you can't see when it's facing you. That has to be the world's loudest rose-breasted grosbeak. Some birds look so much alike, you need every clue you can get to tell them apart. Sedge wren and marsh wren, king rail and clapper rail. Photos do have an advantage. You can enlarge them for a better look. You can share them. You can scrapbook them as a commemoration of your success in identifying the bird. On the downside, if you have to go around life with a Canon R5 and a 100 to 500 millimeter lens strapped around your neck to identify a bird, it's going to get heavy. Plus, what happens if you're in a foraging flock of birds in the fall, of all kinds of different species? You're going to have a hard time snapping the photo of each and every one of them, but you can identify each one like that. Obviously, I take a lot of photos and obviously a lot of videos, but if I let the camera remember that bird, I'm not going to remember it the next time I see it without the camera. But if it works for you, good for you, because there's a lot of pleasure in it, isn't there? eBird, another free downloadable app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I'm going to assume you know it and you know how to use it. Here are some ways to misuse it. Not using the right portal when you enter a report. Mine is set to Maine, which I often forget to change when I go out of state. Out-of-state birds get flagged by eBird, and some poor slob of a reviewer has to go back and figure out what it is you did. Reporting an unusual bird that gets flagged and not providing notes or a description. I mean, what's the poor reviewer supposed to do with that? And another thing that can make it really tough for the reviewer, doing a track that's too far or too long, especially if you're crossing a county line. eBird tracks birds on a county-by-county level, so when you cross a county line, how does a reviewer know which county the bird was in? It gets even worse in my pelagic trips out to sea, because here in Maine, I will often cross the Canadian border, and I won't know where it is, and I'm in a totally different country. I learned the hard way to do shorter lists, and I still screw it up a lot. Audio playbacks and mobbing calls. I did a whole video on the use of audio playback some time ago, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this, which is really only a few seconds away. In short, there's a little bit of usefulness for a birder who's drawing birds in with audio, but there's virtually no use to the bird. Bird is just getting disturbed and riled up. Go online and look at a photo of a golden crown kinglet or a ruby crown kinglet, and if the crest is up and fiery, you can be pretty sure that bird was intentionally disturbed somehow, probably by a photographer. Could be it was just pishing. Look, nowadays there's a lot of tools for birders that there didn't used to exist. And like a chainsaw, use every tool carefully. Most of all, artificial intelligence does not replace genuine intelligence. AI makes mistakes, but so do I. I can think of at least 3 identification mistakes I've made in videos over the last 2 years. Go watch each and every one of my videos and see if you can find them. Meanwhile, I got to get this rose-breasted grosbeak. I'll wait over here.